Welcome back, folks, for a new episode of Rapid Fire Leaked. And today we'll cover the AMX M4 model 1949 Liberté. So this vehicle was leaked last year around September, but since then a year has passed and this vehicle was stuck in limbo. Development hell, that's the balancing department of the super test server. So yeah, it got super neutered or shafted. So initially this premium tier 8 French heavy tank has everything. It had the DPM, the armor, and the mobility. And it was a premium tank, so it gathered a lot of XP and credits. But since then, a year has passed. It emerged out of limbo. And it got a new skin, the Liberté skin, that's like the FCM 50T Liberté on the consoles version of World of Tanks. But the trade-off is, it lost the DPM, it lost the mobility, and some of the gun handling as well, but it actually gained some armor. Not a lot, some, but that's very surprising. So it's becoming fair of a premium tier 8 French heavy tank, but being fair is not fun, right? So you want to be OP, but this tank is no longer OP. So here is the repeat of the history of the AMX M4 model 1949 Liberté, now with the skin. So after World War II, there were two different designs for a heavy tank project. So initially you had the M4 project, which was designed based off the German tanks, the Panthers and the Tiger IIs, but the armor wasn't that great. So for 30 tons, the armor, wasn't sufficient against 88mm L71s or L56, some of them. But yeah, it got changed, so they added more armor. But there were a lot of issues with the designs of these vehicles. So issues like economical, political pressure, development delays, so like the super test server. So a bunch of stuff happened and a lot of the prototypes got delayed and postponed until the whole project was morphed into the AMX 50 project. So the M4 project morphed into the oscillating turret. That's the AMX 50 project. So initially you had the conventional turrets, the single shot, the thick armored vehicles. And then the army and the designers decided that the vehicle was too heavy and too big of a tank. So they changed the turrets to the unconventional oscillating turrets with autoloaders. So two different designs, two different groups. This vehicle belongs to the initial group, so AMX M4 project rather than the 50 project. But this vehicle has the armor, so it's the 1949 version, obviously. But initially you had the 1945 version that we have in the game, then the 47 version, which is slightly thicker armored, and this version, which is the best armor version, hopefully. But there are different versions of the 1949 version. So the 1949 version got really changed because some of them had hybrids. So there were the hybrid 65T with the AMX M4, so basically putting the 65T's turret onto the M4. Some versions are the Migliore version, which is basically bolting 280mm of armor onto the front of this vehicle. So yeah, this is the Liberté version, so I presume it's the normal 1949 version. But here are some pictures of the blueprints of the AMX M4 project. So as you can see, here is the tier 7, the AMX M4 1945. So it's relatively mediocre at a tier 7 level. Armor's alright, but the guns, whatever. So never played it, but it's mediocre from what I heard and from the stats, so whatever. Here is the 1947 version. So they changed the pike shape of the cheeks, so it's a little bit more better sloped. More better slope? That's not even English, Sam. God, grammar mistakes. So better sloped, thicker armored. Yeah, that's the initial prototype, but they never produce actual models and manufacture raw scale. So here is the 1949 version, thicker armored. Here is the chassis. They liked it. They put a turret onto it. So this looks even more like King Tigers or Panther IIs. Panther IIs did not exist, Sam. Panthers. Ugh. But yeah, you know what I mean. So looks a lot like the German tanks. They liked it, but there were a lot of economical and political pressures, delays, technicalities. So the whole project got slowed down until the M4 project was morphed into the AMX 50 project. So that's the history. But there are also other proposals like this one. So this is the AMX M4 model 1949, which has a 280mm plate bolted to the front. So this is the Ameliore. Oh god. It's like the Russians. Like, if we can go all out, if we can do the most craziest of things, like putting a 152mm howitzer on a KV-1, we're going to do it, and we're going to call it the KV-2. So this is like that, like Russian ideology. If we have a 280mm plate, let's bolt it to the front of this hull. Crazy. But here are the afterwards development of the conventional turret group. So while the AMX 50 group are being developed, the older versions, the older conventional turrets designs were not, totally scrapped. So there were still developments of these vehicles. So you already know the AMX 65T. We already covered this vehicle with the leak episode of premium, not the premium tier 8, not the Samua. So this vehicle was leaked in June or May of this year, and it's a normal tank. So it has 120mm large caliber gun for tier 8 heavy tank. It has the armor, a pike-shaped nose, and pretty OP for tier 8. So I'm pretty excited for the second line of French heavy tanks, but this is the initial candidate. They did not release the tier 9 or the tier 10, so nobody knows, but I was pretty excited. So here is the AMX 68T. So it's a little bit more heavy than the 65T. Changed the armor into a pike-shaped nose, even thicker, but that's the initial designs with overlapping road wheels. And here is the hybrid of the AMX 65T with the AMX M4 model 1949. So they combine the turret with the hull. Might be a potential tier 9 candidate, who knows. And finally, the big boss, the big guy, the AMX 70T. So the biggest of them all, with the thickest armor, the pike-shaped nose, and this is the heaviest 70T, obviously. But that's the potential candidates with the French second line of French heavy tanks. I say French twice. Oh well. But here are the main stats of the AMX M4 model 1949 Liberté. So as you can see, it has the Liberté skin that's on the AMX, no, not on the AMX, the FCM 50T. So the stripes of the French colors. Now what I found out is the national bird for the French is the Gallic rooster. It's a cock. Your national bird is a cock. Well done, sir. Nice meme. Very nice spicy meme. But this vehicle has the armor, as you can see. So the armor retains the same value from a year ago. So 180mm at the front with a spare track length of 190. So sloped upwards, and it's 220mm effective to 240. So very thick. Lower plate is 120, well sloped. So yeah, about 260mm effective. The cheeks are 150, well sloped, giving you 336. Holy crap, 340. So it's very well armored. The turret is also pretty thick, so 250 at the best, rounded slightly, so it will bounce a lot of shots. There are a few weak spots of 120, quote unquote weak spots, but yeah, you're not penetrating this. Now there are prominent weak spots on this vehicle, so you could shot trap by shooting right here. It could bounce downwards into the upper plate of the hull or into the roof of the hull. That was one of the big problems of Tiger IIs or Panthers with the mantlet. So shooting at the mantlet, bounce downwards into the hull's roof. Also, the cupola is very prominent, so shooting here is only 60mm, so just penetrate this with high explosives, some of the larger caliber guns, and geesh, wrecks the commander by a lot. probably take out the gun as well. Side armor is crap, 55 now rather than 40, so it got buffed, but not that much. Lower plate is 55 as well. Rear is 40. Rear of the turret is 60. Side of the turret is 120 to 60. So point always to the front because the armor is at the front. Side armor is crap. Rear armor is crap. Do not side scrape. Just don't. 55 is not worth it. So just rely on your frontal armor. They cannot penetrate. And even could go hull down with the gun depression. You see that? Crazy. So let's take a look at the other stats. So the penetration is very good for tier 8. Alpha is alright. DPM got shafted, but I'll show you guys the difference coming right up. So 60 rounds, alright. Shell velocity is relatively okay. So still decent. Accuracy is still pretty good. So yeah, accuracy did not get changed, I believe. But aim time got increased, so it takes longer to aim. Dispersion is still pretty good. Has 10 degrees of gun depression and 20 elevation, so still pretty good. Traverse for the turret is still relatively okay, above average. But hull traverse is slightly below average, but that's average, so still pretty decent. After the nerf. So here are the mobility. Horsepower per ton ratio is 14.29, so above average. Top speed above average by almost 2 kilometers per hour. Reverse is 15, still good. Terrain resistance is, yeah, not that great. So I wonder if it's the same for the T-34. The T-34 has crappy terrain resistance. This has even crappier other than the soft terrain resistance. So getting a grip on hard terrain and medium terrain is pretty difficult. So blows. Health is not as much as before, so below average health. View range is Russian tanks with 10 more meters, so meh. Radio is standard. Camo is okay, slightly above average. Has normal matchmaking, but this is a premium tank, and the Russians will likely get it on October 21st, so tomorrow, but that's the rumor of this tank. Also take note, it has the Liberté camo, so it gets a little bit boosted, but not that much. So is it worth to drive around with the cock? But still, it's alright. So here are the changes to the stats from previously. So as you can see, health got reduced by 100. Hull traverse and turret traverse got reduced. Terrain resistance got, nerfed, so not as good. Hull armor actually got boosted on the sides by 15mm, so no longer will you be overmatched by 120mm guns shooting at your side armor. Rate of fire also gets nerfed. DPM gets super nerfed by like 1/7, so holy crap, that's one shell. Reloads, oh yeah, about 10 seconds now, so yeah, it was 8.5. Aim time also gets nerfed by 0.19, so blows. Man, it was super OP, now it's fair. I mean, it's still fair based on the stats you just saw, just not OP enough. I mean, it's still, I guess it's still worth. But here are the final thoughts and opinions about the AMX M4 model 1949 Liberté. Goddamn, such a long name. So rebalanced to become fair, premium. So now with the camo bonus from the skin, keeps the same frontal armor, so still pretty good, and thicker side armor, so yeah, does not get overmatched as easily. So good frontal armor, gun depression, elevation, accuracy, horsepower per ton ratio, and penetration for a premium tank. That's great. View range, yeah, Russian. Terrain resistance is also pretty crap. Aim time for a 100mm gun is 2.78 seconds, so that's very long. That's like auto-loading 100mm aim time. Ugh. So view range, crap. Side armor's ineffective, so just rely on the frontal armor. Though it's buffed, so does not get overmatched, but still don't rely on it. Obvious, some of the most obvious weak spot, which is the cupola, it's huge. And the shot trap of the mantlet will penetrate the roof of the hull. Also, it will get bogged down a lot, so hard to get traction, even harder for the hard terrain and medium terrain than the T-34. Ugh. So is it worth it? Well, it was super OP with initial stats, so now it's fair. But being fair is not fun. It's up to you, but it's fair now, so it's still worth it, but it's not OP anymore. So current French heavy tanks do not need normal heavy tank training, which is repairs and the usual stuff like repairs, ammo rack, turning, mostly with the traverse. But we could see the second line of French heavy tanks with the AMX 65T, 68T, and maybe the 70T. So who knows? And this tank could train those crew pretty well. But yeah, it's fair now, so it's up to you. So I still recommend you getting the FCM 50T before you start buying these new vehicles, because it's likely that the AMX 50T, the FCM 50T will become, special vehicle, so it will be removed from the gift shop like Yak Tiger 88s. So it's highly possible, but we'll see. So there you go, folks. The AMX M4 model 1949 Liberté. Such a freaking long name. But thank you guys for watching this video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.